Right, let's get started. So, hey, my name is Brandon. I am a software engineer turned cybersecurity expert, hacker, if you want to call it that. And I apologize for not streaming yesterday like planned. A couple things came up, including DEF CON, which is both canceled and has snuck up on us. So there have been a lot of online, completely virtual activities that have been happening for DEF CON yesterday, including a Capture the Flag event with one of my favorite vendors, the Command and Control team, and they had a new range. And you know, as a community champion, I can't help but get involved with such a thing. So I just got that in the mail last week, by the way. So I figured I might as well go do a themed video today, talk about cybersecurity in particular for those who are interested in learning more about that, as I hack away at a variety of baddies in Ninja Gaiden. I know, very clever, very creative that I am. So I also just wanted to play this game for a while, so let's get into it. So let me tell you a little bit about my background in cybersecurity, quote-unquote hacking, as I hack away at these guys. So what really got me into it? Well, I've been a web developer for a long time. I've been doing it for, at this point, 12 years commercially, I think. And, you know, that's a pretty natural place for people to be playing around with things on the internet, right? You want to, have a voice on the internet. Back before social networks were as big as they are today, you have to make a website, basically. So, okay, I learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc., and I built a lot of interactive applications for the purposes of, providing data. And that's fun. Building things is fun. Eventually, I wanted to know, is breaking things more fun? Well, I have a background that's slightly related because I worked for an IoT surveillance company. IoT stands for Internet of Things. So think about your smartphones or smart cameras. Really, any smartphone's not a great example. Smart cameras, smart thermostats, any of these devices that you have on hand that are connected to the internet and are interacted with via the internet. This is, pretty smart from the application perspective, pretty scary from the security perspective. So imagine that, but multiplied by 100. I worked for an IoT surveillance company. So a company that was providing surveillance technology to people to run on the internet, right? A lot of security implications, both from a perspective of this technology needs to be secure, and from the perspective of, hey, we're doing this for security purposes, for physical security purposes. Well, security was a big part of my job there. So I worked there for about 2.5 years, and then I went to a larger company. And about a year into that experience, I was given the opportunity to join the Security Mavens program, which was one of the most, I think, valuable experiences that I had in my entire career. It basically was an opportunity for me to learn more about cybersecurity while working my full-time job. I would get paid to take all of these awesome trainings, and the only thing that I had to trade for that was I had to share what I learned with my coworkers, which was a very fun thing for me to do, because if you couldn't tell, I enjoy talking. So definitely like talking about technology. Talking in general is a lot of fun for me. So I learned a couple basics of security. I took quite a few courses with the SANS Institute, which I now actually contribute back to. I have a couple challenge coins from them as well, which I will show off while this cutscene's going on. And most importantly, my holiday hack challenge coin that I got recently. All sponsored by the SANS Institute. But, that was all cool. That was all great theory. That was all great that I learned all this information about how to make my applications more secure, how to make websites that are harder for people to hack. Well, that's cool, but what's cooler is learning how to do the hacking yourself. So I went to a conference in 2019, last year, where there was this Capture the Flag event. So for those who are not familiar with that at security conferences, Capture the Flag events are where you have to basically hack a website or hack a network to find a variety of flags in the network, and then you get rewarded for those flags. Let me adjust my window a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit easier. Let's go. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, awesome. So you're basically hacking this website. Well, up until this point, I knew how to protect my website from security issues, but not as much about how to hack someone else's website. So that was a fun, legal opportunity to challenge myself there, and I ended up winning the event, which was a big surprise from me. And we had a blog post about that later on, saying about how this person who did development learned how to hack in this event, and it was a lot of fun. And at that point, I realized that I wanted to do more cybersecurity related things. I was tired of building things. I wanted to break things and also teach people how to protect themselves instead of doing actual application development myself outside of a couple hobbyist programs and ancillary work. But I started with a security team at the same company about a couple months later. So that's kind of how I got into it. I know that there's a lot of stereotypes around hackers, about hacking. I'm sure that a lot of you have those. Maybe I look like a stereotypical hacker, maybe I don't, I'm not sure. I'm wearing this whatever emoji shirt from our group. We actually distributed these shirts. I'm doing terribly, by the way. I should have probably warmed up. I haven't played this game in years. The problem with this game is that you get hit back so easily, and that's just like a death sentence. Like that. Great timing, great timing. I was illustrating a flaw in this game. But I have a feeling that I'm going to warm up and I'm going to be able to beat this entire thing. So I may look like a stereotypical hacker, I might not. I don't wear a lot of hoodies. But, I think the coolest hackers, personally, are the ones who do it ethically, right? You're pushing the boundaries of technology in order to protect real companies, real infrastructure, real nation states in some cases. So that's what kind of excites me is, how to learn the offensive security in order to help people defend from real hackers, the ones that are out to scam you, out to take your data and out to sell it, or worse even, doing ransomware attacks, etc. So that's kind of my background. I'm wondering how interested people are in that subject, who are developers, who are getting, new into the field. One thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that it's important to know, I think, how to break things before you build them. I mean, a lot of people do it in the opposite order, but at the same time, you can't get that in-depth knowledge if you don't know how to build things first. So I definitely think web development is probably a great area to focus on before you focus your energy too much on things like security and hacking, etc., because it gives you that background knowledge that's very useful. I'm curious what your perspectives are. I love these cutscenes. They were really ahead of their time, in my opinion. Walter Smith, what a generic name. Kind of looks like General Ulysses S. Grant, if you ask me. Definitely wouldn't peg him as a Walter Smith. So, I've done a variety of these Capture the Flag events before and after I got into the field proper, and I think it's really cool stuff, right? And there are a couple that are run for free through the SANS Institute as well. If you go to sans.org/free, look up their mini NetWars events. Those are free events for you to test your technological skill and learn more about security. But they're a lot of fun. I think it's a lot more fun personally to hack something that you know has problems than to just struggle to find problems that people put in there by accident. There's also oftentimes a great theme that comes along with these events. Usually they're themed in terms of this website is a healthcare company or this website's a bank. And so a lot of the attacks that you find, a lot of the logic that you exploit is very specific to those types of applications. Okay. Are we really interested in this Ninja Gaiden story? You tell me. I just love how these ninjas are out there in broad daylight. No one stops them. Like, as if that's a realistic scenario. I don't know. This is also, like, the shortest, most awesome loop of any game I've ever heard. Like, this is, like, 6 seconds long. They just repeat it over and over again. No variation. Okay, that went relatively smoothly. So, yeah, considering we're all locked in, I might as well reminisce about DEF CON 27, which was last year's event. It was awesome. It was my first time in Vegas, and that's where the conference is, both Black Hat and DEF CON, the two biggest security conferences, as far as I know, in the world. And it was quite nice to be in both of those places. Unfortunately, I was too busy doing the events to really go to a lot of talks. But one of the things that's really cool about DEF CON in particular, and next year I'm definitely going to have to participate in one of them, is there are these what are called Sky Talks, I believe they call it. And basically, these talks are so scandalous. Are so scandalous from a security perspective that they don't record them. They just feature them live. And the reason why that is oftentimes they're discussing copyrighted or, you know, legally questionable activity. So those you can't even see online, even if you have attended and they give you a video archive, you can't see the Sky Talks. So kind of wish I attended that. Instead, I was too busy hacking away at a mobile website that was, what was it? It was a mobile racing website, so it was kind of like, what even? I can't believe I don't know the name of it. Like an iFitness. What are the mobile apps that people use to like race and check their times? I'm so unhealthy. I should really know this just by using it. That dude should not be there. That dude should not be placed there. That's absurd. Luckily, I was, you know, completely out of health anyway, so that was going to be a failure regardless. But I'm going to have to be more patient next time. Okay. I can't believe they make them regenerate. That's absurd. But we got it. We got it. Come on. There we go. Nice. All right. Oh, I love this theme so much. I mentioned this before, but I'm a big fan of this band called Bit Brigade, and they do covers of a variety of different songs by video games live while someone's actually playing the game. And this one, I think, is one of their best works. Okay, we get it, we get it. Let's go hack away at Amazon. Don't take that out of context. Hey Wingo, thanks for the follow. Here playing Ninja Gaiden, answering any questions you might have about cybersecurity, technology, etc. And just having a good time on what would have been in-person DEF CON 28, but is instead DEF CON safe mode. Can I get up here? I really feel like I can, maybe not. Just stop generating these birds. It's ridiculous. So, might as well try to break down different hacks into different categories for those who are interested. A lot of people say, oh, I got hacked, or my company got hacked. What does that actually mean? And I think you can classify different hacks into different categories. The first thing is almost every consumer says, oh, I got hacked. What they mean is they've lost their... If I get killed by a bat again, they'll say, oh, I lost my credentials. Someone got into my account and did some kind of, you know, bad thing to my account, either just vandalism or impersonation. This is usually what's called a social engineering attack, and it doesn't really require a lot of technical prowess. You basically convince someone to give you their credentials in a way that's maybe not so obvious. And these are oftentimes paired with what are called what's called phishing. You may have heard the term phishing before. Phishing. This is way harder than I remember. I'm gonna die purposefully so I have another life, so that if there's a continue, I get to use it. So that's what the majority of people do. It's pretty simple. Any script kiddie off the street can do it. Script kiddie is a term that people use derogatorily towards usually young, unprofessional hackers. So what they'll do is they'll, trick you to respond with your password, either by, having some kind of form or really just anything. But the main thing that they'll do is they'll make fake versions of a legitimate website and then scare you into logging into that particular instance of the website and then quickly type in your information. So a common example of this is, let's say you have an Amazon account and you get a message saying, oh, someone, there's a huge purchase on your account. If this was intentional, click here. Or if it wasn't intentional, click here and cancel your order, right? A lot of people are like, wow, I didn't make this order. Someone must have hacked into my account. And then you'll go to the website, you'll type in your information, and bam, you've now given your information to a real-life hacker, because that website that looked like a real website, it was actually someone else's website that looked like Amazon.com. And there are a couple ways you can tell whether or not someone, created a phishing website or it's the legitimate real deal. But I'll tell you one thing that doesn't work. People think, oh, it says secure in the top left corner. There's that little padlock saying, oh, this is secure. Therefore, I know that this is a legitimate website and one that is not doing anything nefariously. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Unfortunately, that secure padlock does not mean what a lot of people think it means. All that padlock means is that the communication between you and that website is secure. That no third party could look at that traffic or change that traffic, etc. It also means that that website is owned by the same people that own the website, the domain name that you're going to. So if you saw a padlock by Amazon.com, you know that that's actually Amazon.com because the padlock is there next to Amazon.com. But if you go and see a secure symbol next to Amazon.s3. Some random hacker's website, www.facebook.com/America/patriot.gun. I mean, that's not a real... That's a real website. It's legitimate. It's a secure transfer between that website and you, but you're giving that information securely to a bad individual, one that you thought was Amazon, but was really some other party. So anybody in the world can get that secure padlock. It means nothing other than you are securely communicating with that website. If you're giving your information securely to a hacker, well, no one else is going to take over your data, but that hacker has your data and can do bad things with it. So it's not as cut and dry as looking at the padlock in your browser. And now they don't even show the secure text. Now they say not secure if you don't have the padlock. And I think I heard something recently. What did I hear? I heard something related to Google Chrome and changing that policy. I know that they give bad preference to insecure websites on their search engine. But I think they're starting to do something even more aggressive. One thing I know for sure is that if you go to an insecure website, a website that claims to be using the secure protocol but has an invalid certificate, ergo you're securely communicating with someone but not with someone that you think you're communicating with. Well, you used to be able to say advanced and accept the risk. You were able to say, okay, I know that this website doesn't have a proper certificate, but I want to skip this warning and go onto the website because I know what I'm doing. Nowadays in Chrome, you can't do that. Now they've gotten rid of that option. So the only way to do it, I think you have to type the words, "This is insecure," into your browser in order to bypass that message. So they made it very difficult for people who don't know what they're doing to just say, oh, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to skip that warning altogether. I hope one day they are going to show that same warning to websites that are not secure, ergo they don't have a certificate at all. So a lot of people will ask me or be confused about this. They'll say, hey, this website has a certificate, but it's invalid. And this website doesn't have a certificate at all. My browser warns me about the invalid certificate. It doesn't warn me about the insecure website by, actually stopping the page from loading and having that big warning sign. It'll only say not secure in the URL bar. So which one's actually more secure? I would argue the one that has the invalid certificate, because there you know that you are securely communicating with someone. Now, that means that a third party cannot intercept your traffic at a Starbucks and look at it in plain text. Well, okay. But why does Google warn about the invalid certificates more then? Well, the reason why that is because the insecure warning that they give about invalid certificates means that there's a larger likelihood that someone's doing something bad, right? Because if you have an insecure website, it doesn't mean that it's run by a hacker. It may mean that you didn't want to pay for the certificate, or you're not as experienced at development and you don't know how to set up a certificate for your website. So it's not outright malicious. These guys, that guy is so painful. It's not outright malicious, but their users, whether or not the website is legitimate or not, their users have the risk of their sensitive data being compromised. One website in particular I'm a little frustrated with about this is taskvideos.org. Does not have a certificate, and I love that website. That website's awesome, but they take in credentials, and they're a good website. I know some of the owners, I know some of the moderators, the publishers, etc. But if you're at a Starbucks and you type in those credentials, they can be exposed to a third party. So I really hope they fix that. And I genuinely think that's more dangerous than having an invalid certificate. But the invalid certificate is a really good sign that this is not a legitimate transaction. So if any of you in the audience are tool-assisted speedrunners, I know a couple people from my community are, yeah, let's get them a certificate, please. I'm tired of seeing not secure by their name. So my friend Matt just sent a message here. Should I even bother? Like, I'm so drained on energy here. Chrome has been talking about removing everything but the domain from the address bar to prevent phishing. That I have seen that. Yeah, a lot of people are angry about that, but I think it's probably a good idea because it doesn't distract you from the core of the issue, which is who is this entity? I can have Brandon's website.com /fake/ not real !www.facebook.com, and the average consumer might only read the facebook.com and think it's legitimate. So I actually probably agree with what they're doing, even though it's a little annoying and some people might not be fans of it. Yeah, site certificates expire and do require renewing. That is a real thing. So a lot of times you may see that message and you might think, oh, this is a hacker, but in reality it might just be, oh, the administrator did not do their due diligence. Now the site looks more dangerous than a website that doesn't use HTTPS at all. The location of that dude is infuriating. You can't get past the pillar. I'm just killing myself again. This is awful. Awful, awful. So the next time you see not secure and you don't see the big warning saying, oh, this is, you know, a bad certificate, remember, hey, this might actually be more insecure. What kind of data am I sending this website? Am I sending my username and password? Do I reuse my username and password and not use a password manager? Like, insert password manager here. Please sponsor me, some password manager out there. I don't care which one you are. You know, it's potentially more dangerous because someone can intercept that traffic and do a lot worse damage than, you know, the website that just had a bad certificate that may be completely legitimate. Even when the certificate's invalid, I'm going to throw this controller. Even when the traffic is, even when the certificate is invalid, the traffic is still encrypted. You just can't trust that the certificate is owned by the entity that says that you know, they are what they are. So like if you go to google.com, I can make a website called google.com and trick a client into thinking google.com was some website running on my laptop, right? But I can't create a legitimate certificate from google.com because that process requires identity verification. Which I can't do because I'm not actually Google. What I really like about browsers today is you'll notice that some browsers, they don't just have the padlock, but they also have the company's name there. And I forget what that's called, but it's like another level of verification for SSL. And basically what it does is it makes sure that your certificate is owned by a legal entity incorporated with that name. So not only do you know that it's, you know, Verizon.com, let's say, but you know that Verizon.com is owned by Verizon, the company, which may not be obvious. I mean, there are a lot of lookalike domains. Like, you know, I can make Verizon with a 0 instead of... That was my best run! And I can make you think that, you know, it's a legitimate website when it's not. But, you know, if you have that message there, you know that it's a website not only with Verizon in the name, but you know that it's owned by Verizon, the company. So that's a new practice. Not a lot of companies do that. It's, you know, definitely a more difficult requirement. But I like that that's even an option. For those who haven't played this game, like, I want you to understand how ridiculous it is that these enemies keep regenerating all over the place. Oh, thank goodness. This is probably a boss. No, it's not a boss battle. I'm done with that area. Awesome. You got your Twitch account stolen by using a non-Twitch website? Man, you know, when I was younger, like, and I was doing business online, I legitimately fell for a phishing scam with PayPal. And it was so obvious. And I was just like, my brain turned off. My lizard brain turned on. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I got hacked. My website, you know, is compromised. My money's compromised. Like, oh no. And I typed in my username and password into PayPal, what looked like PayPal.com, which is really, really embarrassing. Because at that time, I knew about phishing. I knew about web development. I understood basic concepts of security. But I fell for it anyway. And, you know, you can't think that you're too smart to fall for these kinds of things, because people who are leaders in the cybersecurity industry fall for these things all the time. Because if you have a targeted phishing campaign, otherwise known as a spear phishing campaign, it is very easy to craft a narrative that is so scary that it causes your receptors in your brain that process logic to turn off basically temporarily. And I'm not just saying that to make myself feel better about getting hacked when I was 17, but, you know, nonetheless. How am I supposed to do this? I forget. I legitimately forget. Okay, there we go. That is painfully difficult, especially with that bird there. That's absurd. The site performed the function of watching 2 streams at once. Got it. So that was a site that wasn't tricking you into thinking that it was really Twitch. It was a site that had additional Twitch capabilities. Got it. Okay, yeah. So you shouldn't really share your username and password directly with any third-party website. What they're supposed to do is they're supposed to have a platform that allows you to authorize them using an API key. So that's basically a credential that's created between the 2 websites and authorizes site A to give you permissions to site B. I say this while being a user of Mint.com, which doesn't do that, which is very frustrating. Mint.com is the only exception I'll make to this rule because, gosh darn it, if Intuit, leaks all my information, I'm hosed anyway. I used to use them for my taxes. So what is my background? I'm assuming you mean technological background and not background of where I am or the background I'm using for Twitch. So my background, my technological background, I have a computer science degree. I went to Binghamton University in upstate New York with my friend who's in the audience, Corrupted Syntax. We were housemates for a while. Great guy. Matt, do you have your master's degree yet, or are you still on the final step there? Because he has his master's, I don't. I only have my technology. My brain's shutting off right now. I only have my experience in my undergrad degree. What's wrong with me? You didn't do the thesis. You got all the other classes done. Yeah, I had a feeling that you may have done that, which is honestly probably best because, I don't think a master's degree really adds that much to someone who knows CS. So, Ehrman, you have some programming skills on your belt as well. Yeah, game production is what hooks everybody. There's a comic that's outside of our advisors. So, Eileen Head, our advisor. Matt, you may remember this comic, but there was a comic outside of her door that said, in an introduction to computer science class, everybody walk out of here if you're here for game design, or something like that. And then the entire classroom empties out because everybody's doing it to be a game designer, obviously. Yeah, people do expect games to be free. My favorite games are free. My favorite indie games are free. I think the real way that you make money nowadays as a game developer at this point is you make a game that's such a cultural phenomenon that you could sell merch. I think that's the real way to make money off of games nowadays. I know I haven't made a cent off of any of the games that I made, but I really wasn't trying to because I didn't have any intellectual property, certainly. Is that the Minecraft strategy? Well, Minecraft costs money, right? To get a license in Minecraft. You know what I realized? This whole time I haven't been using my shuriken? Is that how you pronounce it? I was about to say Shoryuken. I know that's not right. So this whole time I've made this game so much harder for me than it has to be by not using those and not using any of the secondary weapons. See, I should have thrown a shuriken to that guy so he could stop shooting me and knocking me back. I don't think I died a single time on this stream from losing health. I think every single time I've died has been from knockback. Every single one. Shuriken? Got it, shuriken. I should really know this. I did karate for a long time, but certainly don't have the weapons that well under my belt because shuriken, okay. I feel like it could be pronounced both ways because there is no I sound in Japanese, so I'm surprised that that's actually how it's pronounced. But yeah, in the karate that I did, there was an emphasis on, it was Taekwondo, so, hold on, what, I'm trying to translate this. No, karate means open hand, so if you did, actual karate, you didn't really use weapons, but a lot of groups called their martial arts karate, even though they technically weren't and had weapons. This is awful. I'm sorry, y'all. I appreciate you sticking by and watching me just completely flounder, but like it seems like everywhere I go, I knock back into the wrong direction. So the one of the things I love about this game is the dying theme is so catchy that you're almost not upset that you've lost as many times as you did. And I mean, big emphasis on almost, but like that theme's so catchy. Do 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 do. I could listen to that on loop forever. They literally spawn the bats as far away such that you cannot kill them before going over. Okay, I guess that worked. I'm just going to stop killing them and only dodging them. I think that's a better strategy. If I fell off there, I would not be okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Minecraft merchandise, but I don't even know how much of that merchandise is actually created by them. I know a lot of it's like bootleg. A lot of it's fan art. Why is there a football player jumping repeatedly from that exact angle? Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. Most games release free, build user base, then monetize at a low conversion. Pulls all the costs up front and pushes all the profit out. Yep. I hear that Raid Shadow Legends is having a comeback now. They have some new features. All of the YouTubers are shilling for them. I don't know, it's probably an okay game, but it's just everywhere. I don't know how they could have such a high advertisement budget. It's absurd. So I mentioned phishing and social engineering attacks. That's attacking the user via social pressure or manipulation. There are other types of attacks you can do on an individual, and these are called client-side attacks. And I'm not going to get into the extreme technicals unless people are really interested. But if you look up cross-site scripting, that's an example of a client-side browser-based attack. And basically, it's an opportunity for you to attack the computer of the user who's looking at the browser, looking at your website via a browser. It's a way of attacking a real person via their browser. This is separate from a server-side attack, which is where you're attacking the system that's hosting the application, which is usually more valuable because you can steal data, but from the company writ large. But client-side attacks are a lot more effective because it requires the user to be on their guard. In many cases. Okay, I promise you I'm gonna win this game before the stream's over. I've done it before many, many times. It's gonna happen. It's like a foot-long knockback. It's absurd. Why did I choose to play this game? It's terrible. I mean, it's fun, but it's just so cruel. Yeah. So I can talk for hours about various security topics, but feel free to ask something. I know that there's a lot of misconceptions as to like what hacking is, who hackers are in the vast majority of cases. Happy to answer any of that. I literally made it to the end. It's not fair. That's really not fair. It's really just the enemy regeneration. That's what gets me. It's like... It's bad enough to kill the enemy once. It's so much worse to have to deal with killing them over and over and over again. I had no chance anyway. Okay, let's speedrun this. Let's go. Am I just stuck here forever now? Okay, yeah, just finish me off now. Come on. Don't stop there. Level 5-3 is not going to be the Sigma of this game. Let's go. So, I'm going to try to think of fun things that I did at DEF CON to reminisce last year. One of them that comes to mind is, it really had nothing to do with the conference, but the first thing that comes to mind, I'm never going to forget it, is there's this branch of bars, I think, in Las Vegas. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's like the Tipsy Robot, if I could guess correctly, hopefully. But it's this robot that will make cocktails for you and serve them to you, which is quite futuristic. And I thought it was pretty neat. Just Vegas in general was really cool. I had never been, so it was a really interesting experience. Right? It's not me. This game's ridiculous, right? Like, it's not me, right? Like... It's absolutely torturous. Okay, that was 100% my fault. Okay. Okay. Like I said, I didn't go to most of the talks. I thought that Black Hat was really, really overrated and overpriced. If I recall correctly, the whole package, Black Hat DEF CON last year, cost like $2,600. And, you know, Subpoint A, incredibly, incredibly thankful that my company was willing to send me there. Like, nothing but respect for them for doing that. But B, I don't know. I mean, it was so vendor-oriented. It was almost like a $2,400 advertisement. Like, the entire thing was just, here's what this company does, here's what that company does, you should buy our product. And, you know, it's okay to have that as part of the event, but I'm there for the people. I'm there to hear about, you know, hackers doing awesome new 0 days, or discovering, I should say. I have to stop jumping there. I keep doing that, and that's always... I want to hear stories about individuals and their escapades, more so than companies. Thanks, Frosted. Frosted and I worked on the Capture the Flag event yesterday that I mentioned. We ended up taking 7th out of 200 teams and individuals. It went pretty well considering the fact that Frosted ended up getting stranded without any internet or power, and the fact that I started a little bit later. Okay. Thoughts on boot camp versus 4-year degree? Do you really learn more with the 4-year degree, or is it mostly theory-based? I think there's some truth to both halves of that question. I think there's a lot more theory in computer science. I also think that it's somewhat valuable theory, depending on, what we're talking about. But at the same time, what provides the most valuable experience? Like, if I had to choose one, if I just had to choose one of those two, I'd probably say a boot camp provides more valuable experience. But that's only because of the practicality of it. And if you're going into computer science and you're not building any practical skills on the side, you're not building any websites, you're not building any applications, I think that's a terrible way of doing the computer science degree. So I think, yes, and I know what Frosted's talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about. So I think that it's they both provide value. It's really about what you take out of it. Now, there's no question in my mind, a 4-year degree looks better on a resume. It just does. I'm sorry. It just, there's nothing you can do about it. It's unfortunate, but it's just a matter of the fact that the industry, especially when you're trying to apply for a major company that has all these applicants, it's really hard to say, hey, I invested 6 months and, some amount of dollars into my career versus I invested potentially 6 figures and 4 years into my career. When they have the ability to pick between those two, I think they're just going to pick the 4-year degree, if for no other reason, then you've made a bigger investment. You're more bought into this. You're not going to probably switch careers anytime soon. You probably don't have a fallback. This is probably your life now. So it's not really all about skills. It's also about the optics of the situation. But I think at the same time, I think the most valuable thing you can do is probably have the experience on paper and then also have the boot camp-like experience. I don't think that a 4-year program necessarily is going to equip you with the skills you need to be a software engineer. It really depends on where you go and what classes you took. Like, for example, I took, with Matt, who's in the audience, I took a class called Software Engineering, and that was like basically the only class in which we learned anything like majorly practical. I mean, sure, we learned programming languages in other classes. We learned how processors worked in other classes. Sure, but we didn't build apps in other classes. That was the only class where we built an app. And, that's unfortunate because after, 4 years, I have maybe 3 apps to show for it. And then after 4 years at a boot camp, you have probably more apps to show for it. Homework assignments and then full-fledged apps. Okay. I think I'm at a checkpoint. Thank goodness. Okay, I really, 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 really hope I'm remembering this right. And even if I lose to this guy, I don't get sent to the beginning. But hopefully I don't lose to this guy. Ehrman, you mentioned that you released a real level designer on Oinari origami. So you worked in the industry. You weren't just a hobbyist. That's really cool. I'm going to have to look up your game, and maybe at some point I can play it on stream, potentially. Yeah, so Frosted says it best. You have to work very hard to prove your skills if you only have the boot camp experience. But that doesn't mean that it's not valuable experience. It doesn't even mean that it's not more valuable experience. I'm pretty sure I'm going to die here, and I'm pretty sure that this is the end for me. I'm pretty sure you're going to have to watch me play that entire level again, unfortunately. Yup! Terrible, terrible decision. Okay. We'll get through this, y'all. We got this. So, I love that, by the way. He dies and dies and dies and then regenerates and then dies. That's so ridiculous. So I think like the people who are really into this game, like legit speedrunners, I think they take advantage of those glitches with despawning in order to get past some of this nonsense. And maybe I should try that. I might try that up here. Okay, so can I despawn this guy? No, because he's static. Okay, that guy is not going to spawn again. Excellent. That guy's not going to spawn again this time. Awesome. Incredible. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I feel a lot better now. I've got the rhythm down. Oh, that was very silly of me. Very silly of me. So, if you don't mind me asking, Digital Keys, are you from one of the boot camps that I've taught for? Did you hear about this channel through that? And if so, which one, if you don't mind saying that? Okay, this is very bad. Oh, very, very bad. Please tell me that I'm going to fight this guy again and not go to the beginning of the level. I didn't even game over. I didn't even game over. This is the worst level in the game. Easily. At least it gives you back your health. From one of the boot camps? Yep. Got it. But which one? Oh, was it Cyber for Minnesota? By any chance? Or for Vandy? I've subbed for a couple at this point. So I definitely think the cybersecurity bootcamp, I think it provides a lot of useful skills, and I really enjoy what I've seen so far of the curriculum. But it is a little bit different than the coding bootcamp in terms of immediate job prospects. I'm not like super sure, and I've told them this before, and I think they're improving it as a result. Cyber in CA? I subbed for someone in California? I don't remember doing that. I don't think there's as obvious of a job path for that bootcamp as opposed to the coding one. And I'm not saying that there isn't, you know, a way you can use those skills to get a job. I just think that they haven't really thought out what job they're aiming for, right? Because if you're teaching pen testing, you know, Python, they deprecated teaching Python. But if you're teaching all these different things, like what junior level job uses all of these things? I don't really know, honestly. I think a lot of junior jobs use the forensics and the, you know, the networking side. But I don't think you're going to be a junior pen tester without putting in a lot of work, as Frosted has, and he's just getting into it himself. Got it. Okay, I got it. Cool. So you're in the bootcamp network group. I'm in like 3 billion Slacks, for better or for worse. So I have a lot related to my subbing as well as just being in the network. So yeah, I told them this, and there was a conversation at one point about, you know, well, is help desk, you know, a job path that directly translates from this? And I'm like, sure, but is that what people are trying to learn from here? I think they're trying to learn things that are a little bit more technical than that. You know, I don't think that's really necessarily what they're going for. Oh my goodness, I'm going to die again. I got hit twice. I would have won if I didn't get hit twice that one time. That's so terrible. So that's my honest opinion, but I think the material there certainly equips you for like a GSOC or a network administration. I think there's a lot of jobs out there. I just wish that it was a little tiny bit more focused, because I think a lot of people come out of that class and they're like, I want to do pen testing. This is awesome. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And for those who don't know, pen testing stands for penetration testing, which is where you try to penetrate an organization. And I just don't feel like that's like what the vast majority of the curriculum prepared you for. I feel like it's a cool thing to know about, but that's not something you learn, I don't think, in 24 weeks. Because like I said, from my perspective, I'm not going to hire a pen tester who doesn't know how to code applications. Because I feel like in order to break applications to the fullest extent, you either need to have an absurd amount of experience in that field, or you have to be a developer, because, you know, it's hard to know how to break things before knowing how to build them. It's possible, but you need a lot of experience for me to think, okay, this person who knows security things knows how to break websites. I don't know if I've heard of Ludum Dare. What is that? Is that that's a game, an indie game of some sort? Okay, I'm gonna go straight in and slash him like crazy. I'm just gonna war of attrition this guy. I'm not gonna think about health. I'm just gonna go for it. And that worked. Thank goodness. It's a game jam. I went to the global game jam at Vanderbilt a couple of years ago. Is that the same concept? Plot twist. It's the most aggressive style game jam. That's really interesting. What's a aggressive game jam? It's such a relaxing experience to me. For those who don't know, a game jam is where you get a bunch of people together and they make a game together. You have artists, you have developers, you have all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life. I'm just gonna restock my health here. All walks of life to come together to make a game. Aggressive, like multiple people, longer time investments allowed. Yeah, the ones that I've done have been like 48 hours, and I stayed up like all night on the game that I had developed. And maybe I should show that on stream at some point. It's like okay, like I'm proud of it, but I don't think it's very fun. I think it's technologically a pretty cool game. It's an online multiplayer game that I developed in 24 hours with a team. So in that regard, I was really happy, but I don't think the concept was particularly impressive or interesting, unfortunately. So that's just my personal perspective on my own game. You might think neither of those things. You thought your bootcamp class was great, laid a good foundation. Now we are working towards certifications, at least those I talked to, continuous learning. Yeah, I think that's one thing that's great about that program is they give you... They pay for you to take one of those certifications at the end, which I think is the path forward, right? I don't think that boot camp alone will get you to where you want to be long term, but I think that plus a certification will get your foot in the door, and that foot in the door will lead to where you want to be. So, for example, Frosted in the audience, ooh, that was cool. Actually, he went to the coding boot camp. He didn't do the cyber, but he's always been a red hat at heart for a long time. So he learned how to do development. He did QA for a while through that experience, but he wanted to be a hacker, and I'm really happy to brag on him that as of yesterday, he is officially AJPT. I think it's eLearning's Junior Penetration Testing Certification. He not only passed that, but he got an 100% on that. So there's no doubt you can take that foundation and run with it and do unbelievably amazing things. And, you know, I'm extremely proud of Frosted. I think that he's great at what he does. I think he deserves all the success in the world. And he's the first person that I go to whenever I have a Capture the Flag event. But yeah, he had to work like crazy with that foundation to get there. And yes, he's going for his OSCP next. And I hope you do. Like I said, you get that certification. I have someone who has promised me that he will get you a job if you have that certification in security proper. And I trust the dude. I trust most people who have C's in their title, and he is one of them. So you're gonna get a job if you make that happen. Come on, there we go. Yeah, OSCP is definitely more intensive, and I think it costs more, unfortunately, but if you're able to make the investment, I definitely think it's worth it. I think for offensive security, yeah, C-suite is always good, right? I hope I'm there one day, but, you know, at least I have some friends there now. I'm getting my way there. Yeah, it's a lot more work, and a lot more money, unfortunately. But if you're able to make the investment, it's definitely where you want to be from an offensive security perspective. But, like, don't necessarily think you have to be red team offensive security. There's a lot of jobs that are not being filled that are not offensive. I mean, the majority of what I do is not really hacking. I mean, it's definitely a portion of it, but the majority of what I do is I look at weaknesses in application code and I advise people about how to, you know, fix those weaknesses. So, like, in order to find those weaknesses, I have to pry around at the application and create proof of concept exploits. But that's not like the value that I add per se. I think that's like a part of it, but it's a small part of it. I think the value that I add is my experience as an application developer, being able to tell people how to actually fix it as a result. So having both sides of the story under your belt, I think, is really important. I think the desire to get into offensive security is so pervasive in the industry because everybody wants to be a hacker. Everybody wants to call themselves a hacker. I told someone that I was a professional hacker at a party, and they thought I wasn't serious. And I told them, no, that's actually what I do. And they're like, what? That's a job? People actually do that? And I'm like, yeah, but they don't. They have less glamorous names. You know, I'm not like a full red team guy, you know, taking down nation states. Like that's when I think you can call yourself like a legit capital H hacker. So like the distinction between red team and blue team. So what's interesting is in my definitions, I wouldn't even call penetration testing to be red team, which may sound really weird because like penetration testing, I mean, that's like super hacking. Obviously that's red team. The distinction that I've heard before, and I think it makes a lot of sense, is that penetration testing is helping you find flaws in an application, not necessarily solving them. I feel like that's more of an application security audit, and that's more of what I do is application security engineering, whatever you want to call me. But a red team is when you do that, but for a mission, right? Like you're not telling people, hey y'all, I'm going to be banging on this application for this amount of hours, and I'm going to tell you what's going on at all times. Don't you worry. I'm going to, you know, make sure that I'm only attacking the things within this scope that you know explicitly, and I'm going to keep you informed all the time. You'll know which attacks are me and which ones are the real hackers. This is for your education. Red team is when you, in my opinion, to be on a red team, you have to be doing a campaign where you are attacking an organization, potentially the organization that hired you, in order to find weaknesses, not only in the applications, but in your security personnel. So like when you are testing to see if your security operations center, your SOC, is able to detect certain attacks, right? That's an example of red teaming, because in a penetration test, the SOC would be well aware of what you're doing. They'll say, oh, disregard that. That's us, you know, testing our applications. That's not a legitimate attack. And that's valuable. But a red team is where you do that not just to, test the applications, but you're testing the team. So the red team is basically simulating a real attacker, like a real nation state, a real advanced persistent threat. And it's having, it's completely secret. The blue team has no idea what you're doing. And you're trying to test to see if the blue team can defend from the red team. So I don't know if I would call what I do blue team or red team. I don't know if I would call it either things, because I'm not an operations security person. This is the single worst placed enemy in this entire game. Tell me what I'm supposed to do without a weapon. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. That apparently. Thank you, Eagle, for saving me. Oh no, that was almost the end of me. Okay. Yeah. That wasn't going to go well. You do not like the mix of dictation and Ninja Gaiden? Which do you not like, my Ninja Gaiden or my dictation? Because I'm here not because I'm an elite speedrunner. I'm here to give people advice in technology. This is just a way that I can do that while having fun at the same time, more or less. There's only one of you. Stop coming back. So I hope that made sense. What I do is non-operational security work. I would say that it's more on the defensive side than the offensive side, but it's very different than a security operations center job, because I'm reading code, I'm helping coders. I'm basically like a security reviewer. So I'm more of an extension of the product development team than I am an extension of security, but I work in security formally. Do not. I can't believe. And now I have no weapon, and now I have no chance of getting past that guy. Please drop weapons. I have nothing other than this hawk that's generating, right? I mean, what do I do? What do I do? What I do is I have to do that perfectly the first time with a weapon. That's the only answer to that question. There's no legitimate way to get past that person with a sword. So that was such a sucker punch right there. The backwards shuriken. Yeah. Friendly reminder that if you are enjoying this kind of content, make sure to give me a follow. We are, I think, 3 followers away from 100 followers. So what am I going to do with 100 followers? I have no idea. But if I hit 1,000, I'll do something. And 100's the first step towards that. Okay. Digital Keys sent a very long, probably good, comprehensive message, and I want to give it the attention it deserves. So here, I have a pause. My only hang-up with making a career change is that I'll be starting at the bottom again, so still trying to figure out how to financially make things work with the career transition. So far, my plan is to work doubly hard doing both until I build up my skill set. I think that's a good plan. if you don't mind me asking, what is your current line of work? Because I think there, depending on your career, I think that makes even... And now I'm just doomed. I'm just doomed. I'm absolutely doomed here. Almost. I think, if you have a good career going, I would say that you need to follow your own advice there, because starting from the bottom in security, it's better than most jobs starting in the bottom, but it's not, it's not necessarily better than, a job like you mentioned, like administration, making good money. Yeah, very, very different career paths. But that skill set's still useful. I mean, that's the thing I tell... Just stop. Yeah, I think everybody's going to be phased out with automation. I think we need to radically change the way our economy works. I think... I feel bad for not remembering his name. The Democratic candidate that talked about automation a lot. He was definitely onto something. Definitely onto something there. Yang, yeah, Andrew Yang, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not saying I would have voted for him, but he was on the right path that, And by the way, I'm trying to die here. I'm trying to die more efficiently than this, but I'm trying to die here. He was definitely onto something, that automation is going to replace us all, and that it's not necessarily a sustainable economic situation. I'd like to think that I'm not replaceable, but I'm already seeing it. I'm already seeing low-code solutions that allow, project managers to build, remotely feasible applications. I see all these tools that are getting better at security testing. They're still all horrible. But, the dynamic analysis tools out there, I think, are pretty decent. The static analysis tools are all absolute garbage and not worth the money, in my opinion. I hate static analysis. For those who don't know the difference between those things, static analysis is where you analyze code using a tool, and dynamic analysis is when you analyze an application by sending it inputs and seeing what its outputs are. Neither of those tools can find business logic issues by definition, but dynamic analysis is great at finding missing headers, missing flags, various issues with the settings, cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. You know what? I just realized I just screwed myself here. What I need to do... Oh my goodness, this is horrible. I have 1 bar of health and I need this weapon. I have no chance. I've hurt myself by having made it this far. I'll have to read that comic in a minute. I like the last one you sent. Oh, that was a horrible jump. I was actually doing really well and I just did a terrible jump. Unfortunate. I mean, there's a way to keep things going, and it's basically to create nonsense jobs. I think a lot of jobs already have been created that are not, like, useful in order to keep the economy from being complete trash. Because, not everybody can be software engineers. Not everybody can be, essential workers. I'm not necessarily conflating those two. I think they're quite separate. In fact, I don't think there's much of anything essential about what I do. But healthcare workers, and then, highly trained experience. You can't have everybody be one of those two things. And, in that world... people are going to lose, are either going to have jobs that are easily automatable or exist for the sake of keeping everybody busy and keeping society afloat. I mean, that's part of it. No, I think security and you know, application development are already being partially automated away. Not fully, absolutely not fully, but there's definitely a trend towards, hey, we don't need to hire an application developer. We have this program that does the application development for us. You know, are there a lot of those programs, and do they solve all of your problems? No, but like I've already seen, you know, people pick up those kinds of tools and, you know, automate. I'm in the same exact boat I was before, and now I have no lives. I have to do dictation while I'm playing this. Otherwise, this would be the most boring stream ever. Stop spawning! That's cruel. Have object permanence, game. Goodness gracious. I would have probably won or reached the final boss by now if I wasn't talking. You have way too much confidence in me. You think I'm being distracted right now? No, I'm being energized right now. I'm just this bad at games in general. Or you could just say that this game is, like, absolutely punishingly difficult. I mean, Battletoads is definitely harder, but it's harder in a different way. Just stop it. Just stop. I'm just dying here because I don't have enough health for this to even be worth it. Nice. 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 Well, I guess I proved you right, because I didn't say anything there, and that was my best run ever, but I really think that's coincidental. I think it's just because I've been practicing. These eagles or hawks coming out of the ground, not cool. Nor the ones coming from the ceiling. The unfortunate thing is I had that if I was just a little bit more patient, but I was so scared by the hawk that I didn't think. It's... Okay, to keep my blood pressure down, let's go back to talking about things. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for automation in our field, even. I mean, machine learning is getting so advanced. You know, you can throw machine learning on anything nowadays. I'm getting really close to being done, unfortunately, here. I don't mean to be the stereotypical angry video game nerd, but, you know, kind of who I am personally, and I haven't been this angry in a long time. Okay, not bad, not bad. Have a decent amount of health. Okay, sweet. Yep, great, happy. Zen, Zen. Everything Zen. It comes straight out of the ground. Straight out of the ground. This is too much, right? It despawned the guy. I want you to play that back. I want you to watch that again. It despawned the dude throwing the crosses. It respawned the bird. I killed the bird. The guy respawned. How was I supposed to deal with that? You can't land on the platform and slash that guy in one shot. You just can't do it. You need a shuriken. And it's so hard to make it to that point without it. You know, without losing all your health or getting one life. I mean... If you could, I mean, if this game only made it obvious which way you were going to get knocked back, I mean, it would be much easier, much more maintainable. Okay, let's try this again. But yeah, to answer your question from before, digital keys, I know it's been a long one, but if you're in a stable job, stick with it until you have something better. So I think you've solved your own problem by having all those doors open. Okay, what I have to do here, the only chance I have, is to get amazing at dodging the hawks and then despawn that character. Okay. Okay, nice. And then I didn't jump far enough. Because the hawk makes you jump early in order to attack it, and then it respawns. Because it doesn't have object permanence. We're really close to a rage quit. I mean, I've done this before so many times, so like I knew that this particular screen, this is always the worst screen. I mean, there's a lot of close contenders, but you know, I knew that this was coming. I wasn't naive. It's literally spawning every single time you kill it. I don't even think it's a glitch anymore. I think if that was the intended behavior, was regardless of where you are on the screen, just respawn this hawk. Okay, now the guy's gone. And he's back! Look, I mean... I'm not making this up! So by the way, because it was mentioned earlier, if folks would be interested in a just chatting about technology stream where I don't play the games, I'm also open to that. I feel like the games bring in more people, and then people have more questions, whereas, you know, the technology by itself is not as interesting, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if that's, you know, a popular opinion, I wouldn't mind just doing a just chatting stream on Twitch. Enough. enough. Got it. Well, I'm glad it's enjoyable. I'm glad my tears are tasty. Make sure to give me a follow if you want to be notified the next time I go online. I usually try to stream on Saturdays. I haven't streamed. I didn't stream yesterday because of DEF CON things, but hopefully I will keep up that. What's the word? Keep up that schedule. The reason why I'm streaming today is for that reason, and just because I wanted to. Okay, here we go. I just didn't even make the jump right. I mean, that's just pathetic. That's just disgusting. After all that, I just don't make the jump. Because I'm scared of getting hit by the hawk. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too with this game. Simple. Did my stream disconnect, or was that just on my end? I've been having a lot of network issues, unfortunately, lately. Thought this one was going better so far. No, I'm still there. Okay. Is that it? It's not even it. It's not even it? Are you kidding me? Thanks for the follow, Digital Keys. I am very focused on this right now. Because this has to be the end. It looks like I died just there. I'm okay, right? Okay. Everything is good now, folks. Everything's good. I'm gonna die here, by the way, because I have one life. Certainly, that was a checkpoint, right? Just gonna check as well in the process. Okay. We're good. I know that the last part is, like, even harder, but in fairness, the boss is really hard, not, like, the level itself. The level being this hard is what's been killing me. Because it's just been knockback after knockback after knockback. Okay. I think we're close to the end of the game. I think this might be the last level. Okay. Let me know if there's any other questions that folks might want to ask while I'm getting things handed to me. That's a new one. Oh, okay. That's not a glitch. That's actually intended functionality that I did not exploit. So what have I made? Made some games, made a cloud surveillance platform, made an educational tool regarding the towers of Hanoi, made a lot of awesome students' dreams come true, and that's another way of answering a question for Digital Keys. I keep in touch with several of them, mostly the ones that have been most, engaged. Like Frosted's a former student of mine. I have another student that I used to get lunch with all the time. Our offices were really nearby each other, but obviously that's no more. We still keep in touch a lot. And, you know, the great thing about, you know, having this network of professionals is that, you know, you can rely on them for some things as well. Like you can say, hey, I have this project going on. You think you can, help me out with it? You know, you have that option, which is great. So, you know, I've relied on some of my students for side projects as well, academic projects. So that's been nice. I always brag on this one student. He has a blog post out on the Trilogy Network, which I know that you're a part of. His name's Wes. If you look up the blog, you'll know who I'm talking about. And he's great. I talk to him all the time. He's always interested in learning new things, always trying to expand his view. He's just a pleasure to work with. And one day, when my business is profitable enough to actually have employees, he'd probably be employee number one. Kevin, maybe you could potentially beat him out on the security side, but both of you are just such amazing sponges that take in information like crazy. It's unbelievable. Oh, here's the boss? This is it? Oh no. Okay, I remember. So I have to attack this thing, actually. And then I think if I lose, I get sent back to the beginning. But if I win this part, this form is over with. Okay. What I need to do is I need to get past them. Okay. Because every time I attack that thing, it just regenerates and hurts me more. So I think this is actually a better strategy to just ignore him altogether and then do this. Okay, that was quite effective. Let's see if I can do that again. If I can do that one more time, I think he's gone. Yeah, that was not me doing that one more time. Okay, but now I have a... No, you're joking. You're joking. I remember when you lose to that guy, it sends you to the beginning of the level, not the beginning of the entire world. You are absolutely killing me right now. Okay, so this is a stream where I'm going to be answering all of your questions. Me playing this game is completely secondary at this point because I have no faith in myself to be able to beat it, even after getting all this training in. So for the love of goodness, let's talk about anything other than what's in front of your eyes, because I am in serious pain right now learning that was even worse than I remembered it. I thought it started you at the beginning of 6-3 when you lost against the final boss. Well, I'm glad all this training has been helpful, because I'm going to need to speedrun this level like 30 times now. Learn how to manipulate knockbacks to not die every time. Yeah, can you send that again? I refreshed my page and I lost the chat log, unfortunately. I wish that they didn't do that. Awesome. I will actually click that now and look at it right now. So someday we won't even need coders anymore. We'll be able to write the specification. The program will write itself. All right. Oh, you're right. We'll be able to write a comprehensive and precise spec, and bam, we won't need programmers anymore. And do you know the industry term for a project specification that is comprehensive and precise enough to generate a program? Code. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I really do think that's there is some truth to that, and I also think that precise specs don't really exist. You know, in the real world, you have, you know, decent enough. Yeah, I guess that was the point of the joke. Is you only can do that with actual code because the specifications are never robust enough. But I think that the tools that we use to code are getting simpler. Like, there's this one tool I was exposed to in my last job when I was doing development work exclusively. is there's this tool, I think it's called Zapier, and it basically is designed to help you chain a bunch of APIs together in a way that does not require formal coding knowledge. That was the worst possible outcome right there. Yeah, I mean, the things that they were able to do with it were primitive and, you know, not elegant, but they worked for a lot of purposes. And, you know, that should be scary to developers. And I think I might be plagiarizing a blogger about this, but I think it's a really good point. So I'm sorry, I don't remember the author of this blog, but basically the point that they made, which I think was a really good point, is if you make the cost of having developers code something too high, you are going to result in low-code solutions becoming too popular, right? Okay, so I need to define some terms there, okay? So low-code. These are tools that allow you to like do drag and drop, that allow you to get the benefits of traditional code. They're not nearly as elegant as what you can do with, you know, actual code, obviously. But, you know, they get the job done in a lot of cases. Let me read your comment real quickly before I continue in this tirade. Where the programmer sticks together decision trees and expert systems to sort through low-tier machine learning tasks. Yeah, I think when you have developers that are, you know, making things more difficult to create basic things. So a good example is like having too many standards around your code and focusing too much energy on refactoring your code. Refactoring code is valuable, but sometimes people spend a lot of time in the refactoring phase because it's easy work for them and they don't want to do the hard work of developing new business logic. And like, it's valuable when you're working on, you know, complex systems like, you know, corrupted syntaxes over here on, you know, Amazon.com. You know, when you're dealing with those advanced archaic systems that have existed for a long time, you need to do refactoring work. I mean, that's a part of having this code that's existed for so long and that has, you know, such important value. But that's not all of code. That's like 1% of 1% of code. I mean, on average, you're you know, dealing with experimental code that isn't really proven out. And when you have experimental code, why invest hundreds of thousands of hours into that initiative when you could use a low-code alternative? So that's kind of the predicament we find ourselves in. We need to make sure that developers are providing value quickly so that we don't get replaced by inferior solutions. Because those inferior solutions, they might be inferior. I strongly believe that I'm a better developer than some project manager with some drag and drop elements and API integrations. But guess what? You know, if I don't provide value, that's more value to them than my code is, because they can build a hacked together experiment that works with those tools. And if I'm deferring that kind of work because I want to do refactoring work, I mean, that's not a good value proposition. So, less on hacking and more on hacking together a solution. But they are related in one way. A lot of people in the industry will say, oh, we're doing an experiment, okay? And when I say an experiment, I'm saying they're trying to get some code out there that does a job to see if it meets a market value. This is absolutely atrocious. I mean, there was like 30 of those things spawning. I guess I got to kill them one shot at a time. Oh, of course they respawn, because, you know, great programming. Oh, and they respawn here too? Love it. Love it. So they'll say, oh, this is an experiment, so therefore, you know, we don't need to invest that much energy into this code. And there's some truth to that statement, right? There's some truth to that statement. If you have an experiment, you don't need to invest all of the world's best engineers into such a project. Absolutely. But you know what you do have to do? You have to make sure that that experiment is secure. Because if that experiment is talking to real data, it doesn't matter if you're experimenting, you still need to make it secure. your customers are not going to hear that as an excuse. Oh, we have this prototypal program that we're creating. We want to make sure that it's valuable to you. So we created this program that was not secure, and we exposed all your information to the public internet. Forgive us, please. Okay, at least I have this boss down. I know that you only have to fight this boss once. This I'm positive of. This particular form of this boss, you only have to fight once. So the next time I fight the boss, I will not have to fight that form. But I think, unfortunately, they're not going to give me my health back, and I'm just going to have to play that entire level again. But, I mean, that's honestly how the game goes if you're not, like, an elite Ninja Gaiden player, and I haven't played this in years until today. Alright, so I have some cool news for our audience. I'm sure a lot of you are regulars, so I'm sure this doesn't apply to you. But we are at 99 followers, which means that you could be the 100th follower of this channel. What comes with that? I have no idea. What should I do? Should I make you a VIP? I mean, I can make as many people I want a VIP as I want. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to make whoever is the 100th subscriber a VIP, which gives you a special diamond badge. This is already hopeless. I mean, his hitbox is so small, and yet he's able to hit me from a distance. I think you've already followed, right, Frosted? Golly, gee willikers. So I hope this is a fun conversation or good content for you. Yeah, so you can't be the 100th subscriber, unfortunately. But you do have a badge next to your name because you are a Twitch Prime customer. And not to call you out, but totally to call you out. If you are a Twitch Prime customer, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can give me free money by subscribing with Twitch once a month. And you will unlock some cool badges in the process. Or some emojis. Every time you subscribe, I think you get a new emoji. Honestly, I wish I could give that out for free, but I can't. So if you want to have my emojis, you need to follow with Twitch Prime. So you can only do that once a month, and you have to do it manually, unfortunately. That's how they get you. But if you'd be so kind, I would appreciate it. That being said, for those who are not Amazon Prime customers, don't feel obligated in any way, shape, or form to sub or to cheer. I think, I'm in a place where financially I'm not struggling. I know a lot of people, are, and I'm trying to train them. So I don't feel like it's necessary by any stretch of the means to give away money that is not Jeff Bezos' money to me. But, I mean, if you want to, you're welcome to. Just not something I would necessarily encourage or even suggest is a good idea. If you already purchased bits, can you unlock bits, or do you have to purchase them? I don't fully understand this. I know that you can purchase bits, but can you also unlock bits? If you have those and you want to cheer me, I have a sound alerts plugin, but I don't think it's working anymore. I don't know if that's like me or if it's just the plugin is broken, but like I can't. It says like a message to me every time I stream saying that it's not available anymore or something to that effect. I don't think you'll be able to hack into Twitch and to steal the emoji, so good luck with that. I think you need to use the Prime in order to get the emoji. So if you want the emoji, I don't think you have a choice in the matter, Mr. Frosted. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm gonna play this for the next 50 minutes, 50 minutes, and then I'm gonna drop because I have another event. So if I win the game in that amount of time, awesome. If I don't, I'm sorry. I'll still probably put it on YouTube. but, you know, this game's hard. I don't know what to say. So please, if you have any questions for me, do absolutely ask them, even as I'm struggling to play the game. My priority is to answer those questions. And I see a couple people in the audience. I'm wondering if anybody has any security-related questions that I can answer to you as a quote-unquote professional hacker. Yeah, I'm really just starting to understand how Twitch works, like even a little bit. I watch a lot of things on Twitch, but I'm not like involved with any of like the memes or the community. And now I'm starting to understand, like I know what Kappa is now. I actually get that joke now. All this time I had no idea. And I saw him exclusively in videos by this guy, Chess Network. So I thought this whole time, genuinely, that that was a picture of a famous chess player that I did not recognize. I genuinely thought that's what Kappa meant. And now I guess it means, I guess I understand that it means sarcastic statement or something to that effect. Or bad joke. Something like that. I don't know how close I am to rage quitting, but I am close to property damage. Very close to property damage. The problem is if I did a lot of damage here, that would only hurt me and probably destroy the most valuable property I have. This MacBook, this monitor. I want to keep those in commission for sure. So, exciting news. Do I do bug bounties? Great question. I have not really. I find myself too busy, and I feel like bug bounties... number one, if I'm doing like a legit bug bounty, it's probably not, you know, low-hanging fruit enough for it to be worth it. Because at this point, I think the best work that I can do outside of my full-time job is more so content creation, more so talking about technology. Not this stream, although I hope that that is a thing at one point. Right now I've made like a cool $11 off of Twitch, which is, you know, nice, but it's not paying my bills for sure. But like blog posts and other related things have been more profitable for me and more consistent. Like, you know, you're not going to be hunting for hours on a blog post and then you somehow don't get the blog post. Like, that's not a thing. But I would be interested in it, like in the world where I eventually go full-time contract. And I don't even know if that's necessarily a thing I'm going to do. You know, there's a lot of benefits to being in corporate life, and I do like my job currently. But you know, if I did that, I would have to do bug bounties in connection with that, right? Because that's just like a hobby thing that I can do to potentially make some side money. I will tell a story about a bug bounty that I did before, though, after I read Yerman's message. What if you, for the talk stream, you just did viewer programs and your programs, like games or other stuff? That's a great idea. None of the games that I've developed are worth streaming, is unfortunately the problem. I want to do a stream where I talk about lichess.org, which is a chess website that I've done some code contributions to, and talk about that code base in more depth. I want to do that. I pitched it to the founder of lichess.org, and he wasn't interested. So I'm trying to find some other developers. He said it was cool, but he just won't participate, so I don't know the specifics. It just may not be his thing. I don't know, but I respect that, and he's a great guy, and I appreciate his support nonetheless, that he thinks it's a good idea. So I'm going to need to find at least one other developer to talk about it with me and have them as like a co-host. So that's one thing that I've considered. And unfortunately, most of the things that I code that aren't games are mostly proprietary. So I don't really have much to show there. I might do a stream where I show some of my open source projects, which are interesting. So one that I did recently that is kind of cool is this one guy in open source intelligence, which is like a branch of security where you basically get people's information from the open source and you use that for purposes. Some of it is for feeding into your red team campaign. Some of it is to find missing people. And one thing that he's done, which is awesome, is he has worked with this group. I think they're called Trace Labs, and they do what's it called? An OSINT treasure hunt sort of thing, where they basically have people try to use open source information to find actual missing people, which I think is a great concept, and I really support the work that they have done and he has done to bring that to the SANS Institute's purview, because he's run some at SANS events through them. So awesome work that he's done. Awesome guy called, his name's Micah, or Mika, I'm honestly not positive. I think he told me it once, which is what I feel bad about. I don't remember how he said he prefers his name to be pronounced. But I think it's Mika Hoffman. And he did a video about this, and I can link you to it, where he did this thing with Untapped. So for those who don't know, Untapped, it's a social media website where you share all the different drinks that you've been drinking. So it's like, hey, I drank this beer, I won this badge. It's a gamification of alcoholism, basically. And what he did was, his shtick, and I agree with this shtick, is this app is basically a landmine for people to steal your identity or get other sensitive information on you. Why are you telling the world your drinking habits, where you are at certain times? Why are you giving this information to the world? And basically, to prove this, he created a tool that scrapes the contents of that website to find patterns about you. Basically generates a map of where you've been based on your drinking habits. And like when you drink, when you're, potentially intoxicated, when you are in this state of mind. So he created a tool that does this, but it was Python, and you could only run it on your local machine. And I'm like, well, what if I can make a website that does the same thing? So me and my friend Wes, who was also one of my students, we developed a web app version of his tool. And let me focus on this for right now. It doesn't even recharge my health. Certainly, this is not where... Certainly, it's not going to spawn me at the beginning of the game again after coming in here with 0 health and it not respawning my health. I mean, the developers here knew that people couldn't do this, right? Like, couldn't beat this level flawlessly and then beat the boss flawlessly, right? Like, the developers of this game need professional help. Hey, Spiker1. I feel like I know that name, and I'm trying to remember why I know that name. Have we met? Are you a student? In any case, hi, welcome. And I'm doing a promotion right now that if whoever follows me next becomes a VIP, because we're almost at 100 followers. So if you're new to the channel, you can be a VIP just by hitting that follow button at no cost to you. What was I talking about before I blacked out with rage? Oh yeah, the Untapped scraper that we built. So you can't tell me how tempting it is to unfollow right now? Well, that wouldn't do you any good, because then it would still be 99 followers. The 100th follower will get the VIP status. And I could give you a VIP as well eventually, Ehrman. You're such a regular. But, okay, so we created this tool to scrape people's information from that website. Why did I bring that up? I brought it up because... I'm trying to trace my steps back. Oh, so that's some code that is open source that I could share with you all if you're interested in learning about it. But it's a tool that is free for you to use to basically get information about someone based on their public profile on untapped.com. So might be something that's interesting to you, I can do a code review if you'd like at some point where I show how that code works. Yeah, I mean, the tool itself you can invade people's privacy with. It'd be more about showing you how he created the tool that allows you to invade people's privacy. I think that there's multiple levels to this. Yeah, most people do give up here. I do appreciate, Spiker, you telling me how, you know, most people would give up here. I'm not most people, though. I've beaten this game before. I agree with you, Frosted. It is not invading people's privacy if it is public information. However, it is using public information in a way that people definitely did not expect and definitely didn't want, which I think is more of a issue on the developer side. No, Spiker, I don't actually. I'm not taking that offensively. I'm just using that to make good content. I don't think. I'm not saying that I'm most people, or that I'm not most people when it comes to this game. I know that this is like the hardest sequence of many games. I've definitely beaten it for real before, but I don't remember how I managed it. I mean, it's just so cruel. It makes you play this whole thing over again. I mean, come on. I mean, at least by the end of the stream, I look like I actually know how to play this game pretty well. So, yeah, I've definitely beaten Ninja Gaiden before. I'm trying to remember if I beat it with save states or not. I'm pretty sure I've done it for real, though. I really think I've done it for real before. Hey, Found Oasis, how you doing? We're talking about hacking as I'm slashing away these baddies and failing miserably to beat the final level of Ninja Gaiden. But that's okay. We're having fun. So if people are interested, I'll go over... It's not as hard as Ninja Gaiden Black, really? The new games are harder than the old games? That's hard to believe. But if people are interested, I'll end playing this game, let's say 15 minutes early. If I don't beat it at 6:45 my time, I'll show off that repository. That might be better. Original Xbox. I mean, that's still new to me. Original Xbox is still new to me. It's not retro. But Micah talked about how to use it. Or Mika, I'm sorry again. He taught about how to use it in his presentation, which I'll link to you in a little bit. It's from the SANS Institute. He did an @Mike talk saying going beyond Googling it, I think is the name of the talk. And our tool was featured. But I can go over like how the code works if you all would like at the end of this stream. I figure that might just be the best thing to do. So let me know in the comments if you think that's a cool idea. Let me know if you think it's a terrible idea. I will go with whatever people say. Because I have a hard stop at 7 o'clock anyway. You're not so sure you want counsel from a hacker anymore? Well, you know, I'm not teaching ethics here, even though I do really strongly believe in ethical hacking. I have never in my life hacked a website I did not have permission to hack. That is a true statement. Oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say way back when that has nothing to do with this. But we talked about bug bounties. I want to answer your question about bug bounties. There was one incident where I found an issue, in my opinion, an issue with Amazon Web Services. And I reported it to their security team. And they told me it wasn't a real issue. And I'm like, you can't be serious, right? Like, this is definitely an issue. This is not intended functionality. You're clearly mistaken. If I'm wrong, can you explain to me how this is intended functionality? And they never responded. And I sent multiple emails since. They completely ghosted me, which I'm really disappointed about. Matt, I know you don't work for AWS, but if you have any pull in that department, can you have someone tell me, tell them to answer this, issue? Because it's definitely a real issue, and I feel like I've gone beyond responsible disclosure at this point. Someone asked, what was it? I don't know if I feel comfortable saying the specifics, but what I'll say more generally is that this is a issue with one of their settings where they basically open something up without telling you, and they make it look like they're not opening up this thing. So basically, your user interface is implying that your settings are more hardened than they actually are. And I verified that even though it says this setting was not opened up, it was actually opened up. So, like, is it the end of the world? No, it's not a 0 day. It's an issue with people who are using the user interface might think that they are more secure than they are. And they claim that this was a intended functionality. I'm like, no, it's not. I understand you may want to open this up by default, but why is your user interface telling you that it's closed when it's not open? I mean, when it's open. And they never responded, so it's really bad. Oh, Spiker1, you're a speedrunner of this game, and you like to watch people play it from time to time. Well, I hope you're enjoying the content. I'm certainly not a speedrunner of this game. Can you give me some advice regarding the last boss? Because I have no idea what I'm doing with this last boss in order to consistently beat him. Do you know any hacky ways, wink wink, to beat this dude so that I can do it consistently? So I believe it's Jaiko. So there's 3 forms, right? I'm on the second one. I beat the first one. I figured out how to cheaply beat the first one. I'm struggling with the second one because I find that his hitbox is very small. And by the way, before you got here, a second form is Jaiko. Awesome. Yeah, if you have any tips or tricks, that'd be great. I promise you, before you got here, I was beating this section more consistently. I struggled with it a lot the first time, but then I beat that section like 3 other times. So the fact that I'm floundering on this level is kind of disappointing because I was doing better before. Better before. So how do I cheaply beat Jaiko to get to the demon? Because I remember the demon being easier than Jaiko. Am I misremembering? Stop spawning. Just stop it. Spin slash him? I mean, the problem is that I die before I get up to him, so I'm not going to retain my weapon that long. Yeah, so if anybody has any connections to AWS, like, I'm really mad that they ghosted me. I don't know if they were gonna give me a bug bounty for that. I don't know if it counted, but like some recognition that it's a real issue would have been like the bare minimum they could have done, and they didn't. They just ghosted me. So, unfortunate. Since I've already encountered Jaiko, you'll be allowed to access your weapon when you first visit. I'm not sure I follow your message. Every time I die to Jaiko, it sends me to the beginning of 6-1, which is really, really frustrating. Is there any way to prevent that other than using save states? Let's start with that question. That was just me being indecisive, unfortunately. If I beat Jaiko, will at least stop doing that? Well, at least the first time you fight Jaiko, you get your health back, but you do not have access to your weapon. Got it. And then the second time you have access to your weapon, but you don't get your health back. See, my problem is I'm not going to have the weapon when I fight him because I will have died too many times on that last stage, on that last screen. I'm pretty close to done here, honestly. I don't know. I feel like this is getting repetitive. I may want to just stop at the half-hour mark, and I could talk about that program for a while. I hope that's entertaining for you, and I'll follow you, by the way, Spiker. I'm interested in seeing how you play the game. But yeah, I think this might be it for me. Yeah. This is a variety stream when... Okay. Sadly, this game is cruel at the end and sends you back to 6-1 when you die in all 3 phases. Yeah. This is this is going to be my last run. If I die here on this stage again, I'm calling it quits, and I can show off that program for those who are interested. And maybe you'll be interested, maybe not. But are you in technology by any chance, as well as a speedrunner? The theme of today is because it's DEF CON. The theme of the day was hacking and slashing and making a pun off of that. Because I'm very creative with my stream titles. Okay, we're done. All right, hope that you enjoyed my unsuccessful run of Ninja Gaiden. I will take the next half an hour to answer any questions you might have about hacking or security or programming, etc. In the meantime, because we talked about it, I figured I might as well show off a piece of code that I've worked on because, you know, someone recommended that might be cool to go over some code. You said the most technology you do is attempting to learn how to improve the quality of video games. It's the one thing I'm fascinated about. Like RB, you mean RNG? RBG is red, green, blue. RNG is random number generation. I think RGB, red, green, blue. Are you sure you don't mean RNG? Random number generation. What's RGB in this context? And are you improving the quality of the games, or are you improving the quality of the speedruns, just for some context? Yeah, are you... Oh, really? Changing the colors of the games. It's very interesting. Oh, very interesting. Okay, I didn't know that there was really much of a community around that. I definitely have not had that experience because I'm red-green colorblind, so I'm not very good with those recolors. Have I stuck any NES games in an SNES before? I've never done that. You can do it with an adapter. I haven't seen that before. I have an FC Twin that allows me to play NES and Super Nintendo games in the same console. But that's cool. One thing that might be interesting to you, Spiker One, is if you look into tool-assisted speedrunning, that's a community where people basically dissect games. And they, through that, they're able to learn how the game works, and they're able to improve their speedruns through that. So you may find that interesting to research tool-assisted speedrunning.
Trying to go for it.
Accidentally opened one of your latest streams. I followed you, and I'll add you as a friend. I don't know what the etiquette is on here, but yeah, seems like I'd find some of your streams fun. Okay, and your streams, your speedruns are on YouTube. I'll check that out as well. I have quite a few videos on YouTube as well. I actually have a fairly substantial YouTube. You may have seen it before, even though it has no connection to what I do right now. But if you go, I'll put this in the channel. If you go here, you'll see that I used to do tool-assisted speedrunning, and I used to support that initiative. So I used to help people dissect games, hack games, in order to figure out how the games work, and then from there you can basically reverse engineer the game and optimally speedrun the game. And I think I did a walkthrough of that on one of my most recent streams. Let me show that off real quick. Let me pull that up, put it in the chat. I think it was for the Mega Man X2 speedrun. I talked about one of the speedruns that I've done in the past. Let me see. Let me see. Let me check. Is it this one or... Yeah, it's this one. So if you watch this video at the end, if you watch this archive at the end, you'll see how I dissect one of the games that I've done a speedrun of. Oh, so a lot of your friends have done Super Mario Bros. 1 tasking. That's cool. I may know them because I used to be pretty involved with the community. But back in the early 2000s, I probably had the most tool-assisted speedrun videos on the internet. I had like 800 videos. Most of them I did not do the speedruns of, but I did the encoding for. So I made them high-quality videos for people to watch on YouTube from other people's speedruns. And that was a common thing that the community did so that more people could see the speedruns without having the hardware or the ROMs. I'm not sure I know that individual. They may be newer to the game, but I'll look them up as well because, you know, most of what I did was in with regards to speedruns were in the late 2010s, early 2011s. Tool assisted. Well, anyway, for those who are just joining us, I'm going to wrap up this stream by going over one of the bits of code that I've worked on because we were talking about it earlier in the stream, and I figure I might as well make this a little bit more educational and explain some code to you as well, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with Ninja Gaiden. So I'm going to change the topic to just chatting for now because I'm learning how to do that now. So just chatting. Code review, hacking people's drinking habits, and code review. Maybe that's clickbaity enough. So, yeah, I used to do a lot of speedrunning too. Mostly Super Mario 2 was the game that I was best at. But anyway, transitioning away from that, and by the way, whoever follows me next is my 100th follower, and you get VIP status. So if that's an incentive for anyone, we are literally one follower away from being a channel with 100 followers, and I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, let me switch this off. Let me try to share my browser and go to my GitHub account, my most recent non-commercial project. Let's see. I spelled my own username wrong. Wow, that's embarrassing. Okay. So sharing this screen in just a second. So I know it's not on there yet. My apologies. Okay, here, and let me get the view decent. Okay, that's too far. Okie dokie. That's about as good as it's going to get. I will not be exposing people's information per se. I'll be showing how one could do that. Because again, this is not private information. This is public information that's being farmed from open source resources. So here's the website. So if you go to here and then you click on untap.osint.ninja, it'll redirect to my site, which I guess is Ninja themed. I'm glad that it's somehow Ninja themed. Ninja Gaiden and OSINT Ninja. I don't own this domain, by the way. But my friend who made the original project redirects here. OSINT, untap.osint.ninja. You gave a recommendation to another person's channel. Let me check that out. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to do like a... Do you know the person by any chance? They've got a sizable community. I would definitely like to reach out to that person. I should definitely see if I can do a stream with them. I don't have nearly as many subs, but I have 5K, which is decent. Way bigger than my Twitch community, for better or for worse. Anyway, back to hacking things. Sorry for the distraction, but that's good information for me to know. Okay, so this website is powered by this code that we created. It was 3 people. It was me, the original developer of this code. His name's Micah Hoffman, and then my friend and former student Wes Braga helped with the design. So basically what this does is it allows you to type in some user, let's say. He uses this user for demos all the time, so his stuff's already out in the open, so I apologize. So you basically type in their username on untapped.com. For those who don't know what untapped.com is, it's a social network for you to share information about the beers that you drink, basically. A lot of people have fun with it, but it's basically gamification of alcoholism, and it's basically a way of putting out all of your information to the public. So this is basically what it does. It scrapes information that you're already willingly giving, that's already available, but then it does some more analysis of that data. Like, all of this data is available, and you can actually see it directly on that website, even without an account. But then it does some analysis here where it says, okay, what's your actual drinking habits? I'm going to tabulate all of the drinks that you have and get an idea of what day of the week you drink and what hour of the week you drink. So that's interesting. You can get some information on them and get some habits. You can also find instances of potential binge drinking because based on the definition by the NIAAA, if you drink more than 5 drinks within the period of 2 hours, you are binge drinking. Now, just because people are logging this information in at a particular time does not mean that they are actually drinking it in that period of time. So there may be some discrepancies here, and you would have to do some manual investigation. But imagine if you were an employer and you wanted to know how reliable some person is that you're employing, and you had their information. You could say, well, this person is, following binge drinking patterns. That might actually be kind of dangerous, something that we wouldn't want employee to do, depending on what you're hiring for. So there's a lot of interesting information you could get here. One last thing that I'm going to show with it, and this is going to take me a minute, so my apologies in advance, is if you have a Google Cloud account and you generate an API key or an application programming interface for Google Maps, you can utilize that in order to generate a map of their actual drinking locations. So give me a second to dig up my API key. These are things that are not meant to be shared publicly, so I'm not going to share my API key publicly, but I'm going to grab it discreetly, hopefully. So APIs. And that's the reason why this website requires you to plug in your own information, is we're not going to give away an API key and potentially rack up a bill from that. I mean, you have to use your own API key on this website. So here, I think I got it. Let's see. So if I plug in my API key and I click set here, and I run the same query again, it's going to take a little bit longer because it's going to take your information and it's going to take all the places you've drank and it's going to do a reverse geocode location call, which basically gets your coordinates, and then it's going to plot those coordinates on this map. So I can actually see where this individual was drinking in a graphical way using the information that's available and the Google Maps API. So that's the gist of what this program does. Now I'll answer any questions you might have about it, as well as show you some of the code that's involved. So here's the actual code. It's an open source repository on github.com, so you can actually look at the code if you so choose. We have some interesting information. We have a README, which tells you how this works. And then we have the actual code. So for those who don't know, a package.json file is basically showing all of the packages that we depend on. So we've built this application using these libraries. So the code that I'm going to show you is just the additional custom code that we wrote on top of that. For better or for worse, most applications that exist today are built off of the shoulders of giants, meaning that the vast majority of the code that you're deploying to the internet is not actually your own code. It is code that other people have published that you pull into your project, and that's intentional. This can be scary because a lot of the packages that you pull in can be malicious and can be abused. And I actually had a really funny story where I published a purposefully malicious package that npmjs.com, the main repository for this, caught, and they actually deleted my repository, even though I was creating it for educational purposes. So it just goes to show you that this is something that people are aware of and that people are keeping tabs on. So that's the first thing that you may want to look at when you're looking at an application that's written in Node.js in particular. Here are some assets that's not particularly important for our purposes. Here are some components, and here are the library files. So let's look at the components. Very poor practice on my part. I broke up this into very few components. So I only broke them into individual components if they were being reused, right? So here we have a table, and we have these charts, right? And we wanted to create one table and one chart, and we want to reuse that throughout our application. We don't want to copy and paste that into multiple different contexts, because a very important thing in application development is don't repeat yourself. You want your code to be as non-repetitive as possible. Now, a modern React developer, and this was using React.js, a modern developer would say, hey, you should have as many components as possible because you don't know when you're going to reuse the same things in multiple places. Well, I didn't think that far ahead. So we had components that were built for reusability, and everything that wasn't reused, we put in this giant component that I'll show you in a little bit. So a better developer would have broken this into the smallest possible units. So here we have a generic chart that takes in some data and we can plot it. So here we have the title. Here we have some information about the range. So I could say here, this is between 0 and 5, and this one's between 0 and 10. Is that what this is used for? Y range. What is Y range used for? I'll have to look at the data that I sent here to give a better explanation about what this is used for. But I think it basically tells you how tall you want the chart to be. Because let's say you have a chart with 5 items and the chart goes from 0 to 100. This is going to be a very tiny section of your chart that's actually being utilized. So I believe that's what this does. I believe this says, here's the maximum value that we're going to use for our graphing. And I want you to make that the maximum value on the graph because we don't want to waste any space. I believe that's what this is for. So then we have our pages. So we have this monolithic page that basically has everything involved, and it organizes our components. So again, if I was rewriting this, I would be breaking this up into smaller components. Yes, Ehrman, I believe that it is the range of the Y values, ergo, what is the maximum value and what is the minimum value, but I'm not positive, and we'll have to see in a moment if I'm correct. So we have a bunch of imports here. We have some functions here. So what this does is, let me try to remember what this does. I should probably comment these functions so I don't have to rely on my memory for a lot of this. What exactly does this do? I believe what it does is I remember what it does. So see how here with this time range, where is the time range? Okay, see how this is hours of the day? It's going from 7 to 6 a.m. If you were to sort this natively, it would go from 0-100 hours to 2,300 hours, right? Because that's a way of sorting hours that is very natural. It's a very numeric way of sorting it. But the person who created this tool said, hey, I don't really want to see it from 0-100 hours to 2,300 hours. I want to see it from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., right? Because that's how people really view a day. This function basically sorts out the hours from 7 to 7. So it creates a priority determining how to sort those hours from 7 to 7. Some more sorting functions, some more helper functions, some functions that update the information that you provide in your form to the state of the component. Not super thrilling. And then we get down here to the content. So this is the actual HTML that is structuring our page. So we have the title of the web page. It's Untapped Scraper Web. That shows up here, so you can see that this maps directly to the title of the tab. We have this form up here that we define using input. We have a definition of what should happen on submit. So it's going to use this function, and we'll show off what that function does in a little bit. But all of this is just structuring the page, conditionally showing portions of the page, etc. So let's see if I can find that piece of data we were talking about earlier. Where is it? Make chart data. What component was that for? It was for charts. Chart header title data. Let's go back to that piece of code. Was that for tables or was that for charts? The axis. I'm guessing it's charts, but I'm just going to double check. So Y range. Is Y range actually used anywhere here? Maybe we were using that at one point and we've deprecated it. I think at one point we were using it to set the y-axis, and I think now we just don't set that. And there's a default. Hold on a tick. Now I'm getting really confused. So here's a chart. Data. Okay, so data maps to this data. Header title maps to this. Maybe Y range defaults to the maximum value provided if you don't provide it here. So here we're using this third-party graphing tool from React Viz. And I'm guessing Y domain is an optional parameter, and that's why we're not defaulting this to anything, because otherwise we would have to. Okay, so that's the structure of the page. What's probably most interesting is the logic of the scraping. So when you submit the form, it's going to call this function in utils called getUntappedOsint. And what it's going to do is it's going to take your username, and then it's going to do a variety of scrapes of the web page. So it's going to download the user web page of this username from untapped.com. So let's start off there. This is going to go to untapped.com/user/your username, the username that you provided, and it's going to fetch that data and load it into this library called Cheerio, which does the actual parsing of the data you retrieve. Now, you might be wondering, if you're astute and you know a lot about security, you'd be saying, you're able to retrieve this data from untapped.com without any browser security? So your browser, by default, is going to block requests to external origins because basically there are attacks that you can do to spoof requests to other websites. That was probably a very unclear description. Let me try to break this down. Let's say you're logged into your bank account and you're accessing another website. You would not want this other website to be able to access information on your banking website, because that would allow this other website to steal your financial information. And even though you're using some website, you don't trust that website is, a good website. You can't trust to see if that website wasn't hacked by a third party that's trying to hurt you. So even if you're going to google.com, google.com could potentially be hacked, and a malicious client-side payload could be loaded that would read your banking information if it were not for this browser-based restriction. So there's this restriction in browsers called the same origin policy that says you cannot request data from another website unless that website explicitly says that your origin is allowed to fetch your information. So how do you get around this, right? That was a lot of information. Okay, look up CORS, cross-origin request. I'm mixing up cross-site request forgery and CORS, which is cross-origin, CORS acronym. I forget what it actually stands for. Cross-origin resource sharing. So basically, your browser prevents one website in your browser from fetching data from another website that you use. Ergo, this website I have here is not allowed to access your banking information. Okay? I know that that's a simplification. I know there's a lot of details here, but for the sake of understanding, that's what's going on here. So how am I able to get Untapped.com's information from this website? Does Untapped.com whitelist this domain? Probably not. We have a little trick that we are using called alloworigins.win. And basically, this is a proxy server that requests the content of a website on our behalf, and it will return it to us without those headers that say you can't access this data. Instead, it'll say you can access this data. We requested it for you, and we allow any origin in the world to request api.allorigins.win. So basically, we are bypassing the browser's built-in security to allow us to get this information from untapped.com. But in fairness, it still prevents the kind of attack that I mentioned to you before, because how do I explain this properly? That is simplistic. You can take my class if you'd like to learn more about cross-origin resource sharing and cross-site request forgery. But let me just tell you that this website, even though it's allowing us to bypass your browser functionality, it's not actually doing anything malicious. If anything, it's doing something malicious to untapped.com because this website's basically breaking its terms of service. Yeah, I understand that might not be clear about how this is related to this website, but we could not access the data from untapped.com without this technology, is what I'm trying to say. So hopefully that brings it back into perspective of why I'm talking about it. So we're able to get the data using this tool, api.allorigins.win. Then we parse that data using, where is it? Right here. We take the data, and from the website, we parse it using these functions. So it's going to parse information from the resulting web page in a variety of different ways. So it's going to get information about your friends, it's going to get information about the beers you drank, and it's going to get information about the venues that you went to. Separately from that, it's going to, we're also going to, where is this? DOM. Okay, sorry, I got it backwards. I apologize, I got it backwards. This gets your page's DOM, and this function parses statistics from that one page. These are going to get other pages. It's going to get your friends page, it's going to get your beers page, it's going to get your venues page. These functions parse that information to get a total understanding of all of the data. So let's look at one of these examples. Let's start out with the user one, because I think that'll be more easy to explain. So parse stats. This is going into the website. It's pulling up a specific class of the HTML, and using that, it's going to parse out your stats information. So let me, I think I have to go to untapped.com to explain this. So if I go to untapped.com and I go to some random user, let's see, how do I go to some random user? I guess I'm just gonna type users / this dude, or is it just / this dude? What's the URL? What is it? I just had it. It's /user / username. Okay. Okay. So here it's going to take these portions of the data and it's going to extract it from the website. So it's looking for this particular section, and then it's confirming that it found 4 components of the data. So parse stats. It's going to find the 4 elements. It's going to find the total you've drank, the total unique, the total badges, the total friends, and it's going to parse that and then use it elsewhere in the algorithm. So that's cool. Probably the most interesting one is the venues. Let's see. If I go down here. Here we get all of the different venues from your profile. And then down here, if you've provided that API key, it's going to take that venue data and it's going to geocode it. Geocode addresses. So this is going to take the addresses that were on your profile, and it's going to look up the coordinates of that location based on the Google Maps API. That's why it takes so much longer to run this search when you have this API key set, because it has to make an API call for each one of the locations in your profile. So that can be kind of inefficient. So what we're going to do is we're going to fetch those locations. If we go over the limit, and that's an important thing that happens here, is that you can actually go over the limit of queries that you make to Google Maps. We basically say, if you go over that limit, wait 1 second and then do it again. So we can bypass that limit. And then we take all of those coordinates that we've decoded and we plot them in this map based on your latitude and longitude. So if I go, this geocode addresses function runs the geocode address function for each one of those locations. And then finally, we load this Google Maps client and we run this function display Google Map, which is going to take the venues that you have and it's going to plot all of them on the map, assuming that that location actually got a geocode. So in an event where this location could not be found, which is possible, it's not going to plot that item. It's only going to plot that item if the latitude and the longitude are available. And then it's going to generate a heat map from there, which is where this color comes from, is it shows you where the cluster of places that you've drank at are located. So yeah, I know I'm hopping around in a lot of different parts of the code base, but this is a brief summary of what this code does. You can read more about it if you like on my GitHub repository. So github.com/BrandonE/untappedscraperweb. I know that was a very brief summary. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about what's going on this webpage. But for those who are just joining, what this website does is it takes a username and it takes a Google Maps API key, and it will scrape the information on untap.com to get some information about your drinking habits and your drinking location, which might be valuable to an employer, for example, an employer who wants to determine whether or not you should be hired for a job. Potentially you shouldn't be if you are, for example, meeting the binge drinking qualifications set forth by the NIAAA. So some people wanted me to talk about some code I've worked on. Here's an example of that. Unfortunately, the other things that I've worked on that are interesting are not open source, generally speaking. So any questions, comments, general questions from me as a person who works in the security industry? What was the markup that I showed in the very beginning? That is the structure that will form this data on the page. So if I go back to the markdown right here, pages, index.js, you'll see that I have this raw HTML, which is going to create this form here. So this form is actually being generated by this HTML code here. This is React.js. So React.js combines markup with JavaScript to basically allow you to dynamically generate markup in a way that is kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It basically allows you to embed data in your markup and for the actual markup to actually be generated. So if you look at the corresponding page, I'll give you an example. If I do inspect element, whoa, that's really low resolution. And let's say I go here, right? Let's go a little bit further. See how it plugs in this data? It plugs in this 08, August 20th, etc. into this cell. If I go to the table component right here, you'll see that this is not a great example because this is using another component, but basically it's taking the data in and it's generating HTML from that data. So I'd have to go to this project to really show you how this directly maps to the data, but I'm passing here the data and then I'm passing it to this component, and then this component is translating that data into HTML, which inevitably results in this content being in this cell of HTML. It's not really an HTML editor. So let me give you some comparing and some contrasting with some other technologies. Let's talk about PHP. PHP is a technology, a very popular technology, that runs server-side code that generates HTML. That's fundamentally what PHP does, is it takes in some data, it takes in some user input, and it generates HTML with that data that basically creates an interactive website. So think about YouTube. You go on YouTube, you load that page, it's going to query the database of all the videos that it thinks that you want to watch, and then it's going to generate the HTML that will display those videos on your screen. Okay, that's a very traditional way of creating applications. And if you look at PHP code, it kind of intermingles PHP and HTML, because the code that you use to generate that HTML uses HTML, obviously. So that's one way of doing it, okay? Then you have technology like jQuery. jQuery is a JavaScript framework that allows you to get data and query for a portion of the website. So say, hey, I'm going to select this particular cell, and I'm going to change the contents dynamically to have this data. So the JavaScript is separate from the markdown, and the JavaScript takes action on the markdown. Does that make sense? So the two things are separate. You have your JavaScript, you have your HTML. The JavaScript dynamically changes the data that is in your HTML. This is React. React kind of combines both concepts. It is a front-end framework that allows you to do data substitution into HTML using this, really easy to read syntax. You have your HTML, then you have embedded JavaScript, and that's going to be boiled down into code that is actually going to work like jQuery works. In reality, it's going to operate on HTML and insert data into that HTML. This is not actual HTML code. This is a syntax that combines JavaScript and HTML called JSX is the name of the syntax. So if you load this web page, you're not going to see this at all, right? This code right here, you're going to see this mangled, boiled down code that is kind of human unreadable. I did not write this file manually. I generated this file using React, JSX, and another technology called Babel, as well as you can also use a technology called Webpack. So you're writing code that looks like JavaScript and HTML to generate a page that is HTML that has JavaScript acting on it to insert the various data that you've defined here. So another example is maybe a little bit easier to see. See how this is this.state.username? This is binding this.state.username to this part of the form. So whatever I type in here automatically changes this.state.username into this value. And if I change the value of this.state.username, it will automatically change the value of the form. And I think I might be able to show this off with the React plugin that I have. Let me see if I can do that. I think I have a React plugin on here. Oh, it's here. Not Redux. I might not have it on this machine. But basically, you can, using React, I don't know how to describe it. You can basically change the data and see that the form changes correspondingly. So if I look elsewhere in this code, you'll see that this data is actually the data that's going to be sent to that get untapped OSINT function. So we're going to retrieve the data that's in that form, that is bound to that form, and we're going to feed it to this function that's going to do all of the data fetching, data parsing, and depending on if you provide the geocoding API, it's going to also take the coordinates that it retrieves and map them out on the Google Maps view, like we see here. I hope that cleared that up a little bit. Any follow-up questions? Doesn't have to be about this website. Could be about security. Could be about application development. Could be about anything. Where did I learn about JSX? If you go to codeacademy.com, there's a React tutorial that's free. And that React tutorial teaches you JSX because it's impossible to learn JSX. Sorry, it's impossible. JSX is useless without a technology like React. And the vast, vast, vast majority of people who use React also use JSX. It's technically not impossible to use React without JSX, but it's way, way, way less user-friendly. It's way harder to work with than if you just use JSX. So if you're using React, you automatically are going to learn a little bit about it. So I would recommend that tutorial. I actually learned React through that tutorial about 3 years ago. I haven't done a lot of front-end development as of late, but the company, when I moved to my current company, they wanted you to know React, and I didn't. They still hired me, but they said you have to learn this just in case you're needed to be working on a front-end application. So I learned React. And I thought it was really nice. I thought it took the best elements of PHP and brought it to the client and allowed you to make really responsive, really interactive websites. So I was really impressed with it. Any other follow-up questions or call it a stream? Have me some dinner. A little bit late to my 7 o'clock, but for you all, I'll be late to my 7 o'clock. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, a lot of information. Feel free to rewatch it on the YouTube archive. Oh yeah, I'll do one last thing. So going beyond just Googling it. Yeah, so this is the video that you can watch from the SANS Institute where my colleague, I'm showing this on the wrong window, sorry. This video right here, if you want to check out open source intelligence and learn about this tool, he goes over a lot of different things that he discovers like through robots.txt, but he eventually demonstrates our Untap tool right here. So if you'd like to learn more about it generally, you can look at it here. You can also review the stream if you want to learn more about the code. So switch over. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Try to keep things fun, technologically intensive, as well as fun by playing some video games. If you like these kinds of streams more, I'm happy to just do a stream where I literally just do code review. But I figure that the gaming element brings people in. That's just my theory. That's why it's a tech career chat. You know, it's a chat, but I'm doing something entertaining in the background. That's just my potentially incorrect way of viewing it and how to, bring in people. So I'm always open to suggestions. If you enjoyed the stream, make sure to give me a follow. We still have that 100th follower to go. We have one more person who needs to follow to make this 100. I'm glad you think it's a solid idea. There's definitely ways I could refine it. But yeah, I think that just talking technology is too much. Like you've noticed earlier in the stream, you're like, I'm enjoying the technology conversation. And now you're like, oh man, this is too much. And I get it. But I feel like you have to have that balance or it becomes overwhelming or it becomes just another video game stream. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you around later. Really appreciate, all of you for coming out here on a random Sunday to listen to me talk and listen to me do stuff with technology. Make sure to follow. If you have Twitch Prime, you can subscribe to me for free with Twitch Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you get Twitch Prime. And you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll catch you around. Later.